them.
I was live.
That's fantastic, man. We are live? Okay, today's guest, I just want to tell you who today's guest is. Today's guest is John E. Deaton, former Marine. In the Marines, he was a lawyer, okay, in the Marines. He comes out, he starts falling in love for the concept of crypto, give or take. He's interested in what's going on with the technology and the coin. And then from there, when the SEC goes after XRP Ripple, I think December of last year, it's when they open up the case, John E. Deaton is now representing 62,000 XRP holders, of which 1,000 of them own other coins as well. A lot of people on Twitter were saying, you and I got to get together, and we finally were able to make it work. So if you're somebody that's following crypto, if you own Bitcoin, if you own Ethereum, if you own Ripple, if you own anything, you probably want to pay attention to this. And we're aware that a lot of the XRP community is going to be here because there's a cult-like following with that community. So thanks for having you on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so having said that, before we get into it, can you get some of the guys to give me an iPad charger here? Because this thing literally died because I've been watching a bunch of his interviews. So, John, what's going on, okay, currently right now with the SEC case against Ripple? We have a bunch of notes here, but bring everybody up to date on what's going on right now with the lawsuit.
Well, right now we're waiting on a couple big decisions from the judge. There's a decision, a motion to strike Ripple's fair notice defense, and a motion, the most important motion, I believe, because I think the fair notice one is going to be an easy one for them to decide. It is the internal documents at the SEC, their documents on Bitcoin, their documents on Ethereum. There's even a document dated 2018, June 13th, 2018, on evaluating XRP and whether it's a security, and the SEC has refused to turn any of these documents over. They're claiming they're privileged, and they're claiming they're privileged, Pat, even though they claim that they've never made an official declaration on Bitcoin or Ethereum. They've actually rescinded Bill Hinman's speech on June 14th, 2018, where he said, look, Ether's no longer a security, Bitcoin's not a security. They've all walked away from that, and so that's why this case is so important. If the SEC is successful, I can guarantee you Gary Gensler is coming after Ether potentially, and not so much Bitcoin, but every other altcoin.
So there's three audiences you're talking to today. So I just want to kind of give you this perspective so you know as you're communicating. The typical audience you talk to, they're all crypto community. So when you drop in names and all this stuff, they know, right? Yeah. So when you drop in verbiage, they know. When you're saying certain things, they know. Today's community is consisted of those who are XRP, Ripple, which you're very comfortable talking to them. Number two, it's the community on the crypto side that don't own XRP, but they own Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they're concerned about what's going to happen with you because, not you, they're concerned what's going to happen with this case because we know Gary is hired and appointed, I think, February 3rd of this year by Kamala and Biden as the SEC chair. And he used to be the Commodity Futures Trade Commission under Obama before. And then prior to that, he was under Clinton. So he's a full-blown Democrat. Absolutely. They know it. And we know Kamala, Biden, one of the game plans that they had is there was a couple things that were not comfortable about is why they brought Gary in. Gary is not a fan of SPACs. They're trying to a little overregulate SPACs. You're aware of that because last year there was about $100 billion of money raised for SPACs the last 24 months. So SPACs are on the up and come. They've been around for a while, but it's been a lot of momentum lately. And the other thing they're worried that they cannot regulate is why they brought Gary in is cryptocurrency. They would like to figure out a way to make crypto a security because if they do, they can now control it. They can now, regulate it. They can do a lot of different things. So for the audience that has no clue what's going on, okay, no clue what's going on, let's go through your initial passion on why you, as a former Marine lawyer who's extremely skeptical, why did you all of a sudden say, look, man, I want to see what's going on here with crypto. This is kind of interesting to me. What was appealing to you?
All right, well, first thing I did what a lot of people do. I read the Bitcoin white paper.
Okay.
Fell in love with the concept of cryptocurrency, bought Bitcoin, bought Ethereum, bought XRP, and just sort of went a firm believer. You know, I think you said in an episode, 40% of all U.S. dollars printed in the last, year?
Yep, 18 months.
It's staggering.
Yep.
And so looking at it as an alternative, a hedge on inflation, or just an alternative to fiat currency that's being debased every day, right? So that's what got me involved. What got me involved in this suit, Pat, was I'm just an investor. I'm not a securities lawyer, believe it or not. I'm actually amicus counsel in the biggest securities case since 1946, and I've been practicing securities law for about 9 months, right? But when I read the complaint as an XRP holder, I learned that the case was filed. I was expecting to see what you always see in these securities cases, that the SEC would say, you know what, Brad Garlinghouse, you know what, Ripple, when you sold XRP in 2013 to 2015 on this specific transaction on that specific day, that was an unregistered security. And that's what I expected. First paragraph, XRP itself is a digital asset security, and it's an unregistered security from the very beginning of time until today. So according to the SEC, including the secondary market, Pat, if I go right now and I buy XRP from Uphold and I don't have any idea of Ripple, they're saying that's an unregistered security. And so it's something very different. They're attacking
They're trying to set a precedent against the
token
crypto
itself.
community.
And the case, the seminal case that they go off is this case called Howey from the Supreme Court in 1946. It involved orange groves. And the SEC never said, or the Supreme Court never said, the oranges are the securities. They said the scheme and the marketing and the packaging, the way that the company sold it, that was an unregistered securities offering. They didn't say the tracts of land were the security. They didn't say the oranges were the security. The underlying instrument, Pat, is never the security. It's the way you offer it and package it. But in this particular case, they went after the token. And Pat, for 8 years, it was sold in the United States and worldwide, 200 exchanges. They allowed Ripple to purchase 9% of MoneyGram. They had a settlement with FinCEN in 2015 where they called it digital convertible virtual currency. This was being allowed to go on and on and on. And all of a sudden, the former SEC chairman, Jay Clayton, on his last day, as he's walking out the door, slaps this lawsuit, the most significant SEC enforcement action, in my opinion, in modern history in a non-fraud case, and goes after the token. And there's so many conflicts of interest that we're going to get into. Jay Clayton was just on TV today on CNBC, and they asked him again, what about these conflicts that everyone is calling you out on? And he's like, I'm not going to talk about it because it's pending litigation. There's no pending litigation over your ethics, right? But he refuses to answer these questions, stuff we're going to get into.
Yeah. So and by the way, the current the case against SEC, doesn't XRP have like some of the most incredible team right now? The former SEC chairman is one of their representatives. Who do they have on their team right now? Who's Ripple have on their team right now?
It's outstanding.
Yeah, that's what
Mary
people
Jo
need to know.
White. Mary Jo White, former SEC chairwoman.
Former SEC chairwoman is on
their team.
Yeah.
Former director of enforcement, a guy named Andrew Seresny, who was the director of enforcement, is their lead trial attorney.
This is Ripple's.
Yeah.
And they also have on their team former SEC person in charge of New York's office, and they actually have someone who used to be the director of corporation and finance on their team. Ripple has an all-star team as far as defending this case.
So let's talk about the devil's advocate. Okay, the folks who are right now saying, well, Ripple deserves this because behind closed doors they were doing X, Y, Z, and for the way Ripple was formatted, if I remember, 80% of that 100 billion, right? Is it 100 billion token? Am I saying it correctly? Of which 80% they gifted, 20% they kept, right? Today's market cap is around $37 billion. The fully diluted will be around $80 billion. That's kind of where they are today.
Correct.
With numbers. So some people from the other side say, well, listen, these guys were kind of doing a pump and dump type of stuff behind closed doors
market
and market manipulation. And because there's no regulation, they can kind of do this. And, you know, they used to say that also about John McAfee. John McAfee would say, it's going to this, it's going to this, it's going to this. So it would go up, he would sell. Then he would tell people not to sell. And I don't know whether he did this or not, but that was a lot of criticism because we had McAfee on as well.
Well, one of the big things that, you know, we talk in the crypto community, our guys are like, we love Ripple, the technology. We love Ripple, the coin. We love what it can do for, you know, international, you know, money transactions. Hate the people who created it. So, like, that seems to be.
Why is that, though? Why are people saying that, though?
Well, I think because when you compare it to, like, Bitcoin, right, there was no pre-mine with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you had people allegedly could fairly mine for it, and it was open and it was decentralized from the beginning. They believe that these executives are enriching themselves. But my answer to that question is, okay, go after Brad Garlinghouse. Go after Ripple. Why are you going after the token? Why are you 8 years after the fact?
Why are you going after the teacher that put, $500 in the Ripple? Yeah.
Exactly. I've never met Brad Garlinghouse, never met Chris Larson, never met any of the people at Ripple. I'm no Ripple fanboy.
Those two names that just so if people don't know, they're founders. I think Chris is the one that founded Ripple Labs, right? He's one of the co-founders as well. Yeah.
Yes. And they were sued independently. Now the thing about it, Pat, is in this case, after a 30-month investigation, the SEC didn't actually allege fraud. They investigated Ripple for 30 months. There's no fraud alleged. It is a strict securities violation. You didn't give proper disclosures when you made these transactions. And I say, fine, go after them. All right? I'm not here to defend them. They've got way better lawyers than me, right, to defend them. But what you're doing when you go after the token itself in the secondary market, right, let me tell you something, and I know this because I've been communicating with 60,000 people. It is an absolute fact that the first-time purchasers of XRP, 58.2% of them had never heard of the company Ripple. They've heard Ripple, the name, but they never heard of a company.
58% have never heard of Ripple.
When they first
spotted it. I got you.
Pure speculation.
Yeah, you know what they do? Listen, you go on. It was the number 3 for a while. It was number 2. Market cap, but it's the top 3 market cap.
Somewhere Litecoin
cryptocurrencies. It's 25 cents. So people look at it, they see Bitcoin going up, they're like, hey, I can afford 25 cents, right? And so they were doing that and had no connection to this company. And so to allege that those people entered a common enterprise with Ripple and therefore it's an investment contract is just, it's taking absurdity to the highest level.
Do you think that they attacked a soft target? Do you think that they were looking to set a precedent against the tokens? Ripple made the mistake of incorporating in the United States. They went after people that they didn't think, like, who pays you? Like they never thought that, 60,000 coin holders would actually come together, communicate, and formulate some sort of defense against this. They thought they were going after a soft target and that they were going to create some case law that was going to change the crypto landscape. And then you came in and you took a dump on their front lawn.
Well, let me tell you, I think what we're talking about here, the people that you know in cryptocurrency, and what Pat said about people don't like these executives or they don't like the 80% being gifted and holding back 20%. If you read the complaint, even though they don't allege fraud, they use fraud-like language in the complaint. And it inflames people. If you don't like Ripple and you're like, oh, they're going after Ripple, I'm not worried about it. But when you read the complaint and it says that all XRP holders all joined into a common enterprise with each other and with Ripple, when they say that the very nature of the token itself is an investment contract with Ripple, then it becomes very dangerous. They're using, in my opinion, this case to set the precedent that you're talking about so that if they're successful, they can do what you were saying, Pat, and regulate all the cryptocurrency.
So let's go back to this SEC lawsuit that Clayton, you said Clayton did the day before he was done, he filed this lawsuit. I think it's December 20th of 2020, December something of 2020, right after election, by the way, when this thing kind of took place. So the lawsuit is towards the XRP holders, nothing to do with Brad and Chris? Is that what you're saying? Or are they going after Brad and Chris as well separately?
No, they're going after Ripple and Brad and Chris, but they're being so overbroad in their language that they're using that they're saying all XRP, even in the secondary market that's being traded, that all of that's an unregistered security.
So one of these 62,000, that's what did they get in mail? Did they get in mail something from the SEC? Did they get, how do they know they're being part of that lawsuit?
Okay, what happened was basically, and this was forewarned. Clayton, and I have a letter, I'm going to give it to you because I just got it from the SEC after fighting them for 9 months and threatening to sue them through a Freedom of Information Act. But a former fellow Republican SEC Commissioner, Joe Grunfest, on December 17th, sent a letter to Clayton and the commissioners and said, don't do this. You are about to harm innocent XRP holders and caused more billions in losses than in any non-fraud case in the history of this country. They warned them, and they still filed it on walking out the door. And so what happened is, just as that former SEC commissioner warned, he said, listen, if you say that XRP is unregistered security, Coinbase is trying to go public. They're not going to hold it. They're not going to keep it. They're not going to trade it. And so the intermediaries, the exchanges, and the platforms are going to delist it, and that's what happened. And so Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, Crypto.com, they all said, look, I'm not messing with the SEC. SEC says the token itself is an unregistered security. We're delisting it, and we're not trading it. And so you have people learn that way. And many of these XRP holders learned of this company named Ripple and these executives called Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson for the first time when they got notice on their wallet in Coinbase that said, pursuant to the, and it says, I can show you on my phone, it says, because of the SEC action against Ripple, we are suspending all trading of XRP. And let me tell you how that impacts people, Pat. I don't know if you've ever heard of I Trust Capital, right? It's basically an IRA for crypto, and it's the biggest one in the country. And they allow you to hold your crypto just like you can have the Bitcoin, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust in an IRA, right? Well, they basically have frozen all of the people's assets. So XRP, if they want to trade it right now, they can't. If they want to sell it because XRP goes to $5 and take that gain, they can't.
This is Robinhood, GME all over again. Right. I mean, that's
you can't buy or sell or trade right now.
You not on Coinbase. On those, there are a couple exchanges like Uphold that made the decision that said this is ludicrous. Our securities lawyers say there's not a unregistered security. We're comfortable maintaining it, but there's like 1 or 2 out of 15, and the rest of them delisted. But those individuals who have that money, that XRP, it's frozen. So if they had a life-altering event, right? Their mother-in-law needed to go to a nursing home, and they needed to cash out.
Couldn't touch it.
Can't touch it.
Yeah.
All waiting on this lawsuit to happen.
Couldn't touch it. Well, that's how a lot of these organizations get negative reputation that they do. SEC types of organizations, what I'm talking about. But when you get a knock on the door from SEC, that's a real knock.
Yeah.
It's not just anybody knocking on your door. That's a knock you got to answer and say, here we go again. So how much money is Ripple right now? Brad, Chris, how much are they using with legal teams, especially the ridiculous legal team that they have? How much have they already spent? Do you know?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least $1.5 million a month.
Okay, $1.5 million a month is what they're spending. Okay.
I mean, that's me guessing.
So in full, if you were to say right now, there's a few things that can happen, right, with this case. They can settle, which a lot of people are saying is probably going to end up settling, right? Let's just say it's going to end up settling. The SEC comes and let's settle, $10 million, $50 million, $100 million, whatever the number is that they settle with, right? Fine. Here's a check. You move on. And then the other one is to say they release. They just kind of say, look, we're just going to let it go. We're not going to do anything right now. And we're not necessarily going to settle with you. What is the consequences of both negative and positive?
Well, I think it's very positive for everyone if there is a settlement. And give you an example. You could pick the number. Ripple owns 50 billion XRP. It's in escrow, and each month 1 billion gets released, and they use some of it, sell it, and then they put it back in escrow. That's 50 billion, Pat. Imagine if XRP gets to $5, right? They're worth $250 billion. That's significantly more than Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. And so if that were to happen and the SEC were to be worried about the precedent, right? The way this case settles is Gary Gensler is afraid that an adverse ruling by the judge on fair notice, where she says, listen, you can't go after him. You let it happen for 8 years. You didn't do anything. There's so much unclarity in the world, in this market. You allowed them to do MoneyGram. You allowed it to go on Coinbase, all those things. If that happens, then that precedent would be usable by Cardano and XLM and every other altcoin.
He doesn't want that.
He doesn't want that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if that happens, when that pressure point takes place, then you could pick a number. You could, if it goes to $5, for example, if that happens, that's they could sell 10% of the monthly escrow, which would give them $500 million. They could settle for $500 million. It would be a huge public win for Gary Gensler because it would be one of the highest SEC settlements.
As long as they don't classify the token as a security.
But that settlement won't happen unless they do basically what was done for Ether in 2018 when Bill Hinman, then the director of corporation finance, said, you know what, we're going to set aside the fundraising in the initial years, but today's token is not a security. We would need some kind of declaration from the SEC or the court for that settlement to happen.
But to Pat's point, right now, look, that sounds well and good, and and for the record, I hold XRP, so I hope it does 5x. But right now, it's like 75 cents.
Correct.
So you're not talking about 250 billion. You're talking like 40 billion. Correct. All right, and the U.S. government has nothing but money and time. So from the outside looking in, I'm not an attorney, but this looks frivolous. This looks like somebody trying to lean on somebody. This looks like maybe, I don't know, like you said, MoneyGram, Western Union decided to get a couple senators in there and say, this is going to put us completely out of business. Yep. Like we make 25 cents. We make 25 cents out of every dollar transferred. These guys can do this instantaneously for no money. Like, get rid of these guys. But what's to say that they don't just keep dragging it out, bleeding you out? I mean, how long can they take this? If they take this thing 10 years, is Ripple going to fight for 10 years? What's their breaking point before they say, okay, you know what, fine, we're security, close the thing down, reincorporate in Mexico with this same exact white paper and start over?
It's a great question. My settlement scenario was if that pressure point existed for Gensler, that it was going to, put him out of business regulating all the other crypto because of the precedent. If those rulings don't come down favorable for Ripple, then I don't think there's a settlement. I think it goes to verdict, and I think it's on appeal, and I think we are looking at a couple years of that process. At some point, Ripple could tap out and say, listen, we'll go with a certain designation. We can only sell to accredited investors now. There's ways to get around it, but I don't see it happening. I see it either settling, because of those rulings that come down, or it goes to verdict. And there was a verdict in Connecticut not too long ago where a jury came back where there was a digital asset, a small one, where the jury said that's not an unregistered security. And so that's where I think we're headed.
So let me go back to that, though. Because the point was we have two things, settle and dismiss, right? You almost want settlement more than you want to be dismissed, right? Because if they dismiss it, then that means, hey, we're coming back again and again and again and again and again, right? So there's a part of Brad and Chris and the 62,000, and it's 62,000 you're representing, but there's more XRP.
Of course.
So what's the number, 456? I saw a number like 450, 500,000 XRP holders.
Something like that.
Some number like that, right? So if they dismiss and they don't do anything, what happens then?
Then we have this cloud hanging over us. Yeah. And what Gerard said, I think when you had Kurt, I was watching that video when you had Kurt on,
yeah.
and Gerard summed up the unfortunate nature of what's happening in this country. He literally said, Ripple is similar to Bitcoin. They were just dumb enough to do it in the United States. I mean, that sums it up. We'll be right there where there'll be this uncertainty. And right now you have Gary Gensler saying, come in and talk to us. As soon as they're using those interviews as a way to learn information about the company. As soon as you leave, by the time you get to your office, you have a subpoena. Mm-hmm. Brian Armstrong of Coinbase was trying to negotiate with them over that Lynn product. And all of a sudden, he shares with him all that information. He goes in and he talks to him. And then what do they say? If you bring that Lynn product, we're going to sue you.
Why do you think they did want to be the first to incorporate in the United States? They're obviously not dumb guys. Why do you think they wanted this fight? I feel like they kind of, maybe not the SEC, maybe not the way that they've gone after it, but I feel like they poked the bear, by kind of swimming against the current. And I don't know, maybe they thought they would skip the line and be the first that would become like some sort of, state-backed, as E.B. Tucker called it, Fed coin.
Right.
I don't know what the intention was. I don't know what kind of conversations you've had with them, but have they ever described to you what their thinking was with making this, an American product?
No, I've never spoken to them. And a lot of my critics will say, oh, he's a plant for Ripple. Look what he's doing. Never spoken to him. There was a report done by Fox Business on this story, and they said Deaton's no fanboy of Ripple. I don't got anything against him. I'm an XRP holder. I want them to be successful because if they're successful, the whole ecosystem grows. But but I don't know why. A lot of people ask that question.
So definition of security. What is the definition of security?
All right, a security in the form of an investment contract. That's what's happening here. 4 things have to happen. 1, has to be an investment. 2, into a common enterprise. 3, you are led to believe.
Hang on. Investment, common enterprise.
Common enterprise.
Okay, you have to believe.
A reasonable expectation of profit.
Okay.
And 4, and you rely on the efforts of others for that profit. If you meet those 4 factors, and you must meet all 4, then it is an investment contract.
Give me the 4th one. So investment, common enterprise, reasonable expectation of profit, and you're relying on others.
Relying on others
to help make a profit?
To make the profit.
So let me ask you a question.
Yep.
If this is what the definition of security is, I've been Series 7 since day before 9/11, whatever, 2001 I've been Series 7, 66, 31, 26, all those licenses. Till today I have my licenses, right?
Your Series 7 can drink now.
My Series 7 can drink now. You're right. In 1 year, in a year it can drink. Not yet. It would have to drink at a party like what typically would do. But if that's what you're saying, how many people, and this is a very simple question, how many people buy XRP, Ethereum, or Bitcoin for its technology rather than as a source of investment?
That is a great, great question, because there are, and let me address this, there are a group of people I represent that use the technology. They go on the ledger, the XRP ledger, and they use it as a bridge asset. They buy casino coin. There's a decentralized exchange part of the ledger, and they trade assets, trade different currencies.
Yeah, it's like a pseudo dark web now, man.
And so there are users of the technology, but there's no doubt that there's a lot of people are speculating, right? Whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum,
I've read
XRP.
as much as like 97% are speculators.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the part where, for them, they don't like that, right? I mean, you just defined. If I ask right now, and listen, most people are probably not going to say exactly, but if I ask right now, why are you buying Bitcoin? Oh, it's a great investment. No. Don't use that word.
Right.
Don't use that word. Like in as a financial advisor, what's the one word you cannot use as an advisor? Like the one word you have to be careful selling mutual funds or stocks or bonds. What's the word? The G word. What's the G word? Guaranteed. You can't say, dude, I guarantee you. The stock market with American funds, the last since 1934 when American Funds Investment Company of Act America came out, it's done 12.2%. Dude, I guarantee you can't say that, right? So that's the G word. So the investment word, you cannot use that with these technologies. Okay, number one, you're looking at it as an investment, common enterprise, reasonable expectation of profit. Most people have a reasonable expectation of profiting, and then relying on somebody else to make the profit. One can say that about all of them, right? So then the conversation becomes decentralized or centralized. Many will say, well, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the most decentralized product out there, right? Let's just say that's what many will say.
Right.
But then they'll say, look, Ripple is somewhat centralized. And they'll come back and say, no, it's not. It's pretty decentralized. Only 7% is centralized, right? How much does it matter whether the technology or the coin or the wallet is centralized or decentralized? How much does that matter?
Great question. And let me just point on your point about the investment.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Ripple lawyers and others, they don't want me talking about investments and things like that. So you're 100% right. Now, I will tell you that you have to focus on the token versus the technology.
Yes.
The network versus the token. Ripple, I will tell you right now, I can absolutely win any argument that the XRP ledger is more decentralized than the Ethereum network. I put every dollar I got on it.
Why is that?
First of all, because if Ripple went away, they filed bankruptcy tomorrow, right? XRP ledger continues, XRP continues. Vitalik Buterin dies, you're going to tell me Ethereum's going to continue to go? Mark Cuban just recently said, when he was challenged by Bitcoin maxis on a clubhouse, I was listening in, and they were like saying to Mark, they were like, look, it's not even Ether 2.0. They're going from proof of work to proof of stake. They keep promising to never deliver. And Mark says, I think that Vitalik's going to figure it out. and I'm putting my money on that. That's centralization, right there.
Yeah.
Now, the problem for Ripple is that they own 50% of the XRP. Okay, that's token centralization. That's token centralization, and that's the real problem for them. And a lot of people look at that and say, well, you own half of the token.
That's the market manipulation people were talking about.
They're worried about that, and that's why Brad Garlinghouse came up with the escrow, where they put it all in escrow, and each month only $1 billion of the $50 billion will come out, and then they'll go back in escrow, and they can't touch it.
That's good he did that, by the way.
Very smart.
Very good he did that.
Very smart.
You made a great point, too, about Vitalik. Like, I'm a big Ethereum guy. Anybody that's been listening to the podcast knows I'm very, very, very bullish on Ethereum. But I'm bullish on Ethereum because of Vitalik. Same way that I own Tesla because of Elon Musk. Elon Musk bails on Tesla, I'm out.
Right.
You know, so the proponent of the great man theory, that's a great point that you're making, man. But when it comes to, as an attorney, right, when you're looking at what the SEC is doing, and Pat made a great point about, okay, like, we can't set this up as an investment. Well, then I can see, I'm just a dummy from Jersey, and I can see a Kafka trap from a mile away. Okay, well, if it's not that, if it's not an investment, then it's gambling. And you still need to register with the Gaming Commission because you're buying a token. It's lottery, essentially. You're buying this thinking that it could go up, but with no fail-safe if it goes down. Either way, they're going to want you to register. You're either gambling or you're investing. And they've kind of got you trapped.
John, I just want to give you a full disclaimer. Very few dummies from New Jersey use the word Kafka trap 2 seconds after saying dummy from New Jersey. Just want to put that out there. But go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that because I'm still trying to figure out what it means.
All right, go ahead.
I didn't listen to the rest of what he said after he said that word. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
I'm a dummy from New Jersey.
I'm just an ape.
Kafka
I'm just an ape floating on a rock through outer space, bro.
But anyways, what was the question?
So basically, man, you see them, they're trying to corner the token into regulation. First, they're going to go after it as an investment property.
Right.
And then you're going to say it's not an investment property. Like Pat's saying, it's not an investment property. They're going to be like, okay, well, what makes it not an investment property? Well, it could bottom out. It could hollow out. Oh, so then you're gambling.
Right.
Now you need to register as lottery.
Right.
Now you need to register as gaming. They're letting your arguments, you're going to win this argument, and through winning this argument, give them their next argument. If I learned anything from doing Mafia States of America with the questions Pat asked Rudy, the government is taking their losses and turning them into their next wins.
Right.
They will change the law until they have you. So what my concern is with something like this, especially with the settlement, because the settlement makes too much sense, just make it go away. The settlement gets you closer to the regulation. Okay. If it's not going to be this, then they're going to get you the next time. And it's not going to be registered as a security. It's going to be registered as gaming. It's going to have to be registered as some sort of gambling. You're going to have to be 21 and older to buy it. You're going to have to buy it with certain restrictions. Like they're going to regulate it some way or another. And we're trying, the whole point of this is the decentralization and deregulation. Right. The whole point of this is to be outside of their scope of control. So, that's kind of like, now that's not your concern, obviously, because your concern is to win the lawsuit in hand. But, and again, I didn't know that you didn't know the guys at Ripple, but I'm wondering if they are then saying, would they rather be a security than be gaming, than be seen as some sort of lottery essence? Because like you said, there's the technology, but then there's the speculation.
Right.
And the speculation right now, 97% of the people don't even know what they're doing. That is gambling. That's lottery.
Well, one problem in the United States is that you have so many multiple agencies. It's already regulated. XRP and Ripple were registered. Well, Ripple was registered as a money transmitter, and they got sued by the government, Department of Justice and FinCEN, and they had a settlement in 2015, and they paid $700,000, and they were told you have to register all your sales of XRP through FinCEN. And that happened in 2015, and then, of course, 5.5 years later, the SEC comes down and says, oh, by the way, it's also a security, right? And so what we really need is Congress to step in and authorize the right agency to govern cryptocurrency.
If these are securities, then what's an NFT? If the token is a security, what's an NFT?
What Pat went over, you can imagine many things fit those if you want to.
No question about it.
Non-fungible token.
By the way, this is why I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
This is why I'm concerned. Because, look, Joseph Kennedy, who is he? He's a bootlegger. He's the father of the Kennedys.
It's amazing there hasn't been a movie made about Joe Kennedy.
There has to be. I mean, he's a legend. Okay, the guy would sit down his kids in suits and say, which one of you guys going to be a president first? Can you imagine setting that expectation?
Gun runner for the IRA?
I think you got your next project.
So I've interviewed RFK. RFK is a very good friend. I think we have something coming up together, debate that we're doing part 2 with his book that just came out with his best friend in regards to his best friend, Anthony Fauci. He loves Anthony Fauci. That's a joke, by the way, sarcasm. So Joseph Kennedy, before there's any SEC, anything going on, the guy just knew pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump. Everybody and their mothers was doing it, right? And then the Security Exchange Act of 1933 and such an Investment Company Act of 1934 and all these other stuff, whatever these things started coming out, right?
Yep.
Right after the Great Depression. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Many will say it was a good thing because guys during that time capitalized because there was no regulation. They came in, they took money out, and the rich got richer, and a lot of people got crushed that couldn't afford to lose that $3,000 or $40,000 or $100,000, or that girl you're talking about whose father passed away and insurance policy paid $75,000, and she put the $75,000 in XRP, and she can't take the money out, and that $75,000 is now whatever $20,000, but she needs that money. Right. She can't touch that money, right? Okay. So the other part is what Draper said. Tim Draper. I don't know if you saw the Tim Draper interview with Gary 3 years ago, 2018, when this interview took place. And Draper gave a system. I love what he said. And by the way, for people that don't know who Tim Draper is a beast of a guy, is who he is. Here's how he broke down the system. He says, bankers are panicking. He said this in 18. He says, this is their system. It's always been their system. Step number 1, they say, this is nothing. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, NFT, nothing. You ain't got to worry about it. There's no way they can, compete with somebody like us where Jamie Dimon's got $7 trillion of money circulating through Chase on a daily basis. That's like whatever the number they say. That's a pretty big number that they go through, right? So he says, step number 1, these guys are nothing. They're not going to make it. It's just a fad. It's going to go away. Step number 2, now it's too big where you have to face it, okay? So what they do is 3, bankers all get together and say, we can't make this happen. What do we do? Step number 4 is we sue them. Step number 5 is we bring our government friends to say, I need a favor. I need you to sue those guys. And he's telling this to Gary when Gary wasn't yet the SEC chair. He was only the chair of the CFT, Commodities Futures Trade Commission, right? CFTC.
It's like he's clairvoyant.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's what was so epic about it. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
What did Gary say?
It's powerful. So then Gary's trying, but I think we're already there. But I think we're already there. And then he says, and the last one is Tim Draper, freaking mic drop. He says it's make or buy. He says what everybody do. All the great companies, they either make or buy. He says you either have to choose to make a similar product, similar exchange, similar token, similar wallet, or you have to buy it. And that's eventually going to happen. So that's where we are today. Now, go to politics and bring politics on board. For 4 years, I've been saying, when people say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, all these crypto, Patrick, this is what's going. I said, you have to realize there are those who are driven by freedom. Leave me alone. Let me do something better. And there are those that can't stand it, that you keep getting richer and more powerful. They cannot stand that you keep making money. We had Matt Zeller on yesterday, and we talked about Trump, and I hate Trump. I hate Trump. You know how angry he got, and you and I had lunch at Louis Bassi.
I like Matt Zeller. Yeah.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
We're bringing him back on board. I think Matt's great.
Yeah.
But you and I talked about it during lunch, and you said what? You said, why do you think it's such a thing about...
He broke him.
Yeah.
What was it? There's something about Trump that makes these people
and I said,
violently angry.
I said, because there's certain people in life you're okay losing to. You're kind of like, well, listen, I lost to my cousin. The guy kind of comes from the richest family, and he went to Harvard. I'm okay if I lose to that guy. He makes more money than me. He's more successful. It's fine. But then you have that one cousin whose mom and dad were, let's just say, divorced, and one was an alcoholic, one went to jail. That cousin beats your ass in life. You can't deal with that. Right. You got to diminish him. You got to throw him. You got to do all this other stuff, right? Crypto is almost like that cousin and that coin where it's like, listen, fiat's been around for a while. Gold's been around for a while. Who the hell you think you are? There are a lot of people that don't want to see this happening, but there's one good thing that's happening today to the crypto community. There's more true believers today than ever before. There are more credible sources that are coming and saying, look, we're putting our money into it. We're going to fight as well. It's now the crypto community is a political party.
Yep.
So we're back in the days where Democrats wanted to win the black vote, and they did after Barry Goldwater.
That's a great point.
When the Democrats wanted to win the black vote, because blacks forever have been conservatives. I mean, Martin Luther King was a conservative. He was a Republican. We got to win it. Barry Goldwater gave it away. Yeah. Went from 60% to 92% African Americans voted for who? For Democrats, and they've had it since then, 92, 88%.
Civil Rights Act,
It's been a while, right?
Yep.
Political parties today have to be very careful. And I think this is going to favor whoever's on the free enterprise side of the political side. Because Gary's a Democrat, Biden's a Democrat, Kamala's a Democrat. And the ones that are going after crypto are all on one side of the political party. The libertarians, the independents, which is the crypto community. Crypto community is not Republicans. They're typically independents and libertarians.
Anti-establishment.
Yeah, anti-establishment, which Republican is establishment to them, so is the Democratic Party.
Right.
But I think what's happening right now is if this happens, I don't think this is just a financial issue for them. If they settle, whatever they do, forget about that part. I think they're going to be crushed politically because it's no longer just 100,000 votes or 500,000 votes. You got millions on top of millions that now have influence.
I'll tell you why you're 100% right, especially with the younger community. All right, this is, again, E.B. Tucker, great guy we had on last week. You know, there's kids that I've coached in baseball, kids that I still follow, that are now young adults. They've never held gold. They don't give a shit about gold, but they've been trading crypto for 5 years.
Absolutely.
They've gone and they're learning blockchain technology in schools. I learned cursive. Like, you know what I'm saying? These kids are learning blockchain, triple ledger. They understand the technology in ways that we don't. You know, we're almost old in this, and these guys. This is not like new alien technology to the next generation. This is just a way of life to the next generation. So it's only going to get bigger. And they saw what government does. They saw what with GME. What happened with GME when the government literally stepped in and made it okay for the hedge fund not to go under. For people that don't remember what happened with GME, they overhedged on a short.
Yep. Wall
Street Bets came out. A couple, rogue analysts came out and said, these guys are leveraged past their teeth. All you got to do is keep the price above the put, and they got to pay whatever. It could go up to $1 million a share, theoretically. And it had gotten up. It was a $6 share. It had gotten up over $350. Oh, yeah. And it was going to go up over $1,000, and they just turned it off. You could sell the stock,
right,
but you couldn't buy it.
No, you're right.
Right? So what the SEC did in that regard, or what they didn't do, I think I ended up getting like a class action, like $12 check from Robinhood or something like that. Webull, all these exchanges. If you didn't believe in the necessity for a decentralized, unregulated blockchain, you can lose your money on Mt. Gox, but you can also lose your money in the stock market, and they could steal from you, and you have no recourse whatsoever. That right there, what happened with that Wall Street Bets, what happened with that 6 million, I think it's up to 10 million Reddit subreddit, is you had an entire block worldwide that lost trust and faith in the market and in regulation. Whatever little faith that they had in regulation, they lost it all overnight.
Let me tell you how on point you are. Just a little over a month ago, I started a website, and I'm plugging it, but I don't make any money. There's no sponsors. It's called cryptolaw.us, and I put an app in it. And all you do is you put in your address and your zip code, and you type your message, and it goes to your congressman and your 2 senators. In a little over a month, 6,000 messages have been sent to these elected officials. 100 senators have been contacted by these crypto people, and 420 representatives. All right, it's making a difference. They are very engaged. All right, that's an incredible number to have 6,000 in a month.
That doesn't do anything. Trust me when I tell you, having been in government, that does everything. So many people don't make contact with their elected officials that the few people that do, their voice is amplified so much. I tell a story from when I think one of the first times I was on the podcast. It was an old lady at Nunn, and she thought people were speeding too fast down the church, and she would literally call and show up at the State House once a week. Hey, we need a speed bump. Is there any way we can get a speed bump? I'll raise money for a speed bump. And then finally it got to a point where it was like, we need to fast track the speed bump. I don't want to deal with this lady anymore. She was the nicest activist in history. The lady got her speed bump. It took her like 4 months.
Right.
It was just one person that writing an email, making a phone call, showing up at the State House, and she got her speed bump. Yeah. You know, like the system works if the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and that cryptolaw.com, that's a game changer, man.
And I'm actually wrong. It's 8,000. I just remember it's over 8,000 messages have been sent to them, and people are sending me some of their letters. And many of them get the form letter. Hey, thank you for contacting.
Well, don't do that. Don't do the form letter.
Right. Some have been doing that. I'm talking about
filtered out.
the SEC. I mean, not the SEC. The elected representatives. They're getting a form letter from the app. But some of them are actually meeting with their constituents and learning because they see where this is going. I've had people send me letters that they received from their congressmen, a couple of them here in Florida, where they said we're involved in this SEC, we're monitoring it.
8,000 people, bro. 8,000 people. Look at Jersey. You just had Phil Murphy win by what, 6,000 votes? Yeah. You think that he's saying,
guys, listen,
8,000 people? Yeah. He's like, if they're going to write me an email, they're going to vote.
Let me tell you. If I'm the Democratic Party right now, or the Republican Party, or if I've ever, like the Libertarian Party that puts a candidate like George Jorgensen, love her philosophies. Love the philosophies. You can't sell. You're not a salesperson, right?
People thought Spike Cohen was running.
If there ever was a time that you saw an opportunity, if Ross Perot was able to get to 21%, whatever the number was, 19 to 21% as an independent, if you've ever wanted to capitalize on it, like if today Libertarian Independent Party wanted to get to 30, 35%, like this is a market. This is not going away. But here's a concern that I got for you. I'm going to go back to. So Ponzi scheme. You know the word Ponzi came about. There was a guy named Ponzi. Okay, so what's the whole thing about a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme? You hear these words, Ponzi scheme, pyramid. Everything nowadays is called a pyramid scheme. Everything nowadays is called a Ponzi scheme. It's very easy. People drop that word regularly, right? NFT is being called that. Cryptocurrency has been called that. A lot of things have called a multi-level marketing has been called pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme. But the challenge where some people win is when there's not an actual usage of the product. Let me say that one more time. There's not an actual usage of the product, meaning the product they sell is not being used. If I'm anybody right now, I want to get to the 60% number, 70% number, which means something. There's got to be 70% of the people that buy this coin use the technology, use other aspects of it rather than just So, for example, hypothetically, all these guys that are pro Bitcoin, pro Ethereum, pro whatever, Doge. Right. You just saw Elon Musk yesterday saying we're not going to be taking payment for what through Doge, right? Yep. Because he says the technology is better than XY. Even though this started as a meme thing, it's better than all the other guys with their technology. Yeah. Yep. Elon Musk is doing the right thing. What Elon Musk is doing is he's giving it credibility. So, for example, insurance companies need to start accepting Bitcoin as a payment. Like when you talked about the whole I Trust Capital, which is the IRA, that's great. Small businesses need to start more taking Bitcoin as a payment, Ethereum as a payment. More of these folks that are pro-crypto the future, that's the direction you're going, decentralized. The bank can no longer bully you and do all the other stuff. Powell can no longer control your life. Any of those things, great. But there needs to be a major push into the usage of the technology rather than the investment. If they win there, I think...
You are 100% on, and that's why I brought up the utility. Listen, I can make a very good argument that XRP is being utilized way more than Bitcoin or Ethereum as it relates to just that token being used. Cross-border payments, people get on the ledger, they send money. There's an app, a developer independent of Ripple called Spin the Bits, and it's spending Bitcoin, where he uses the XRP ledger as a layer 2 solution to the Bitcoin network problem, right? It takes 10 minutes at the low end for Bitcoin to an hour for the transaction to go on the ledger.
Ripple's instantaneous.
Ripple's XRP is instantaneous, 3 to 5 seconds. And when you had Kurt on here and he said, Bitcoin is like 7 transactions, BTC and
BSV,
Ether is 15. Ripple XRP, the token, 1,300 per second transactions and fraction of a penny. I can move, I've watched it, I can move $2 million worth of Bitcoin for a fraction of a penny using the XRP ledger. As you said earlier, the technology is awesome. It's absolutely, in my opinion, the superior tech as far as the network. And I think when you get to usage, XRP is ahead of the game.
That's where you win. You win there. That's my opinion. I may be wrong, but I think you win by me needing to use the product. If I use the product, it validates that it's not just an investment.
Here's the problem, though, guys, right? And this is the beauty of decentralization, and this is also, this is where decentralization lags behind. Who's the Patrick Bet-David of Ripple? Who's moving the company forward from a marketing perspective? Who's out there creating the infrastructure necessary? Who's got the user interface so that everybody can get on their phone and within 3 seconds learn how to use the product and use all these different ledgers that we're talking about? Who's going to teach my mother how to use Ripple on a day-to-day? It was impossible to teach her how to use Venmo. It took like 2 years to get her on Venmo. You know what I'm saying? So that becomes the issue with cryptos going forward. Which community can come together and coagulate in a common direction, that they're going to have the Bitcoin ATMs, and somebody's going to have the conversations with Mutual of Omaha and say you should be using Bitcoin to take payments. Like who's out there actively selling, who's out there actively marketing, who's out there actively creating infrastructure in these usage things. There's a $1 trillion industry. Yeah. $1 trillion industry in the future for people that, think about it. Think about the very first person who allows EasyPass to have Bitcoin and takes 1/10 of a cent of a transaction for every EasyPass that goes through every toll in the country. Right. That they're worth $1 trillion.
No, you're right.
So but who's doing that? Right now, who is pushing that technology forward? Who's the driving force behind that technology in these because these aren't like companies. They're like organizations. They're it's the beauty of it. It's the wild, wild west right now. There's no directive.
Well, two things. You'd be a great securities lawyer because do you know consumptive use defeats the whole case? For XRP or if Ether gets sued, the SEC in the complaint, they have an entire section that tries to say there is no consumptive use. It is all mere speculation. There are no users of the network. So you're 100% on point. And the problem, the danger, why this case is so dangerous is what you just said. Who's out there promoting it? Because once you are a promoter, are you a common enterprise? Are you leading people to a reasonable expectation of profit based on your efforts? Uh-huh.
If somebody was a drug dealer that started it, is it now a RICO case? Right. Are you now complicit in international smuggling? Like if you buy this stuff's the Wild West, man. NFTs, I saw, and you as a lawyer, I'm sure you've heard this as well. There are people out there right now, right, that are creating an NFT for $300 Ethereum. Okay, they've got $1 million in Ethereum sitting in the bank. They buy their own NFT for $1 million Ethereum. They spend $1 million, but now they have the NFT and $1 million Ethereum. Right. They sell it at a loss for $500,000. So they lost on the ledger $500,000. They took a $500,000 loss, but they got $1.5 million Ethereum. Right. You can do that over and over and over. It's not illegal right now. Right. You're getting a $500,000 loss and you're increasing your wealth. Is that what's going on with the NFTs?
Look,
is that the idea here?
Think about it from this standpoint. Okay, what allows the government to want to tighten up regulation on guns? What allows it? Think about what helps their argument.
Public perception?
No, forget public perception. It's dummies who do stupid things that are irresponsible with a gun. Then the politician comes out and says, "What? I told you,
I'll save you.
We have to, and you know what, Governor Newsom, I'm going to do exactly what Texas did to abortion, we're going to do to guns in California. Mm-hmm. Here's what we're going to do moving forward. You can no longer buy, right? So, meaning, where I'm going with this is the following. The quick money, get rich quick scheme type of guys are unfortunately, making life difficult for the rest of the guys that are doing it the right way, the long-term play-wise. And this has been going on for a while. Government, the regulators, they love that 1% of the con man that are
Oh, yeah.
that are trying to. They say, you see,
Yep.
you see, that's exactly why
Shit.
we need to protect you
It might be them.
from that person.
It might be them. They're the
Well,
ones
that's-
going around breaking the windows.
That's the
being like, we
Hegelian
need to-
dialectic.
Yeah.
That's the Hegelian dialectic.
Gary
yeah.
Gensler just did that just a couple weeks ago when he brought up Bitcoin. Someone brought up Bitcoin. He goes, it's being used for ransomware. Do you know what percentage that really is being
That's
used
the
for?
play.
But that's the play.
That's the play. And like for example, last year we had a couple $100,000 of fake valuetainment consulting Bitcoin stolen, and we get the calls, and I get on the phone with these guys. I'm like, listen, that's not us.
Right.
That's not us. Look at the email you got. That's from David Crypto Specialty at gmail.com. I said, that's not us, buddy. We don't have that website. That's not our website. Go look at the IP address. Oh, shit, I feel so bad. My wife is so upset at me. So there is that going on as well.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be a part on, a society has to either accept the fact that if that happens to you, you were the one that didn't verify the source that was coming your way, so you deserve exactly what you got.
Right.
Or a society needs to say, no, we need to figure out a way to eliminate 100% of that. And that's when these government people come in and they feel special that they're needed to do their job, and then they go turn one small regulation into 78 different regulations.
Absolutely.
And then another guy comes in, try deregulating stuff. So my concern is they're going to point to these guys and say, this is why you need our help. Which
would you prefer in that spectrum?
You know which one I would prefer. To me, I would prefer, look, the whole concept of valuetainment is what? Education. That's the whole concept of valuetainment. Look, here's what to look out for. Here's what to be paranoid about. When you're raising money, keep these things in mind before you raise money. Ask these 10 questions. Before you're hiring somebody, ask them these 5 questions. Before you open up an office and sign a lease, know what the commercial real estate guy makes. Here's what their motive is.
Understand risk.
So to me, I'm all about educate. And then look, if you screw up, it's on you. I've screwed up. Mm-hmm. God knows how much money I've lost screwing up.
That's organic regulation.
And that's organic regulation. A part of that's got to be organic regulation. But there are those who abuse others. My punishment for abuse would go higher. My punishment to want to hurt somebody's livelihood and their savings, if you do that, it wouldn't sit very well with me.
Less laws, but harsher consequences.
Less laws, harsher consequences, my approach, is what it would be.
The problem we have, though, is it's always an extreme. It's either no regulation or it's a nanny state. And that's the problem. It's the financial crisis, after it came down and Dodd-Frank was passed and all that, I couldn't get a mortgage to my home, and I just wanted a home equity loan, even though the home was worth 2/3 what I'm asking for, and I had 5 times that in the savings account. But they said because 1 year I fell under a certain threshold at my law firm, settlements were delayed or whatnot.
They're doing the exact same thing now with COVID. They're doing the exact same thing now. They're telling people that they had a lapse of income. They were like, yeah,
Right.
The world was shut down.
Right, but before that, it was no verification income loans. It was no job verification. All those things.
Then the predatory lending.
But the problem we have right now is when a situation like this case happens, and certain government officials start picking the winners and losers. And that's what's happened in this particular case. And I hope we have time to go over some of those conflicts.
Go for it. Go ahead.
All right. So I just want to share with you a couple minutes and interject.
Go ahead.
Right. So Clayton gets appointed immediately. He is called.
Clayton is former SEC chair.
Former SEC chair Jay Clayton. Immediately, he's described by Rolling Stone magazine as the most conflicted SEC chairman in the history of the United States because of his connection to the banks and the Wall Streets. At his confirmation hearing, him and Elizabeth Warren go back. He agrees that he should recuse himself, that he should never vote against one of his clients having an enforcement action. Like, he has to step back, right? So that goes on. He gets his good friend, William Hinman, to become the director of corporation and finance. These guys are heavily connected. They were the main sponsors of Alibaba IPO and many other types of IPOs. Bill Hinman comes in. Jay Clayton is from firm Sullivan and Cromwell, okay? And Bill Hinman is from Simpson Thacher. Well, immediately in December of 2017, Sullivan and Cromwell represents the co-founder of Ethereum, Joe Lubin and Consensus. And Bill Hinman has a meeting with them, and they start talking. Immediately, the very next day, Consensus General Counsel gets up and starts talking about how they're building this alliance with the SEC. They go on to have 4 to 5 more meetings with Consensus and the co-founders of Ether with Bill Hinman. Bill Hinman's firm is a member.
Just so I can track it. So you have a private law firm, the Ethereum, and then you have the SEC all together in meetings?
Right. What you have is you have the co-founder of Ethereum, Joe Lubin, and the founder of Consensus meeting with SEC, Bill Hinman, and his firm is a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance.
To what end? What in what capacity? What was the reasoning for the meeting?
I think he's getting to it.
The reason for the meeting is because they start lobbying for a Ethereum free pass. Right? They want to say, hey, Ethereum, yeah, we maybe did an ICO because it was the world's first ICO, but it's sufficiently decentralized. So Jay Clayton then tells Andreessen Horowitz, which is a huge investor in crypto, right? They have the $2.2 billion fund, big Ether backers. He says, write a memo up for us and tell us what you want. They write a memo and a safe harbor proposal. There are multiple meetings that take place. A secret meeting in March of 28th of 2018, and it gets leaked because there's some stuff going on in there. And they propose a safe harbor for crypto, but the only crypto they mention is Ether. And then what happens on June 14th, 2018, Bill Hinman, gratuitously as Director of Corporation and Finance, very high up at the SEC, gives his infamous speech where he says, setting aside the fundraising that took place with Ether, it is sufficiently decentralized today, and therefore current sales of Ethereum are no longer considered a security. He goes on CNBC and he says, well, you know, when we look at Ethereum, we don't see a third-party promoter. You just had a meeting with him.
It's a backroom deal.
You just had meetings with him. He had a meeting on June 8th. 6 days before the speech, he had a meeting with the promoter. So he gets up there and says, we don't see it.
In criminal law, this sounds like a proffer meeting almost.
And then, absolutely. Then all the people start asking, well, what about XRP? XRP was actually number 2 at the time behind Bitcoin, and it was battling Ether for the number 2 spot. Oh, we're not going to comment on any of further tokens. Joe Lubin then goes out and starts basically saying what the SEC is going to do. He says, we're working with the SEC. They gave Ether a pass. They gave Bitcoin a pass. All these other coins, he literally says this, are absolutely spectacularly disadvantaged compared to Ether. They didn't mention XRP. That's very interesting. He says the SEC is going to be coming after certain projects. All of this takes place, right? In the meantime, Bill Hinman is collecting $15 million from his law firm while he's at the SEC, which is a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, right? Sullivan and Cromwell, which represents Jay Clayton's firm, that's his firm, they represent Consensus and the co-founder of Ethereum.
Wow.
Right? All of that's going down. Now, listen to this. Just before the lawsuit happens, now in the meantime, Ripple's allowed to buy 9% of MoneyGram and use XRP. It's actually, they're giving it to MoneyGram, who's then selling it on exchanges for dollars. Coinbase in January of 2019 goes to the SEC and says, look, our securities lawyers have decided that XRP is not a security. We want to list it. What do you say, SEC? SEC doesn't say anything. 1 month later, XRP is listed on Coinbase. Then, in October, One River comes out and they make a $1 billion bet on Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's in October. And also, Consensus decides that they're going to buy Quorum, which is a competitor to Ripple. They're trying to replace SWIFT, the messaging and money banking system, basically, which is what Ripple was completely focused on. And then on the last day, you've got, on a 3-2 vote, who does Clayton go with? He goes with the 2 Democrats, even though he's a Republican, votes to file the suit against Ripple as he's walking out the door. His excuse, has been reported, well, he deferred to the staff. The director of enforcement leaves 3 weeks later to go to Simpson and Thatcher. Clayton left. Bill Hinman left. All of these senior people who were supposed to foresee this case, right, and see it through, all leave. 2 weeks before what I mentioned earlier, before this happens, Joseph Grunfest, former SEC commissioner who helped Ethereum, writes, and I got the letter here, writes to Clayton and the commissioners and says, listen, you've never made a material distinction between Ether and XRP. If XRP is a security, Ether's a security. If you're going to allow XRP, Ether to be traded, you got to let them trade it. He even goes as far as...
I got 15 million reasons why that's not true.
He goes as far as to say, if you file this lawsuit, it calls into question the commission's discretion.
This is like a damn John Grisham novel,
right?
Man.
He says that. And so what happens? Jay Clayton votes for the lawsuit. The 2 Democrats vote for it. The lawsuit's filed. They all leave. Jay Clayton goes to One River, Bitcoin and Ether. And guess what? The people that helped write the Hinman speech, and by the way, these are all facts. On Crypto Law, we have a video library of all these interviews.
You're getting dangerously close to making an allegation here.
All right, and I will tell you, they basically come out, and Bill Hinman now works. He's a partner with the Ether investors who helped write the speech that gave Ether a free pass. And that's not an allegation, that's facts, because lawyers who are part of the meeting have come out and said, I didn't think Ether was sufficiently decentralized, but Bill Hinman did. I'm not sure why he did. 15 million reasons might tell you why, being a partner at a 2.2 billion. So here's the thing about allegation. I'm not saying that they broke a law, but what I'm saying, tell me there's not enough for an independent investigation. That's all we want. We want an independent investigation. In the meantime, don't take John Deaton's word for it. An independent organization, Empower, is in litigation with the SEC because they won't turn over documents. They won't give us Bill Hinman's calendar. How is a guy who's being paid by tax dollars, director of corporation finance, they won't give us his calendar to who he met, when he met? They won't release it. This independent organization that sued the SEC asked for any ethics discussions between Clayton and the SEC about his post-employment. Hinman, they say there's no documents or they won't give the documents.
Even the Freedom of Information Act, they won't give it?
Right.
They're going to do 75 years now for the Freedom of Information?
Right. And so that's all in litigation, but that's what's going on. You know what I mean? And so what I'm doing is saying, listen, you want to go after Ripple, go after Ripple. Go after Brad Garlinghouse. I don't care. But you are destroying people's lives by attacking the token itself. And why did you allow the MoneyGram to happen? Why did you allow Coinbase to do it? How does Coinbase go in there and say, we're going to list XRP unless you tell us otherwise? And then they don't, and they list it. And then 18 months later, as he's walking out the door, he slaps a lawsuit.
They weren't told no yet.
Right, but it's what I'm saying. And so...
Let me ask you, who hates, if you were to make a list of people who hate XRP, who would you say hate XRP? Not dislike, who hate it?
Joe Lubin, who is the co-founder of Ethereum, the founder of Consensus. We have him on video saying XRP is overvalued, XRP is a shitcoin, XRP this, XRP is not a competitor, and so we're not worried about it. The day of the Hinman speech where he gave Ether the free pass, Joe Lubin goes on the same stage right after Bill Hinman, and he says these words. He says, oh, by the way, I didn't get to read all of the speech. Did they bring up XRP? And the moderator goes, no. He goes, well, isn't that interesting, right? He goes on later in interviews to say that the SEC is going to be coming after certain projects, and he hints that it's going to be XRP. And the thing that you have to understand is the guy who's saying XRP is not a competitor, XRP is not a competitor. Why is it the first token you bring up after you're given the free pass? And the other thing that the SEC won't give us is, did you know that 63 emails went out with that draft speech that gave Ether a free pass? Do you know who was the only commissioner to get a draft version of it.
Who's that?
Jay Clayton. Did you know Crypto Mom herself, Hester Peirce, never saw it? How do you draft this?
Why would Clayton even be involved in that draft? Why would he even?
He gave input. He's the only commissioner. Bill Hinman was deposed. Ripple was successful in getting him deposed. Of course, they redact everything to the public. And I have it here if you want to see it. The lawyers ask him, did you ever represent...
How much is redacted?
Ethereum, 90%.
Can I see? This goes to Pat. You were telling a story a couple weeks back about you were at Harvard and you said that there was a guy who was having trouble.
This is just find a congressman, pay him $500,000.
That was it.
He's going through an election and he'll help you put up a law to hurt them.
This is it.
Yeah.
Now,
in action.
He's asked questions like, have you ever worked for Ethereum Foundation? Look at the answers.
Look at the redactions.
All right, and this isn't the whole. This isn't. This isn't the whole lawsuit.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Right?
This is insane.
Now, why would they redact, Pat, if he's asked a question, have you ever had clients that are part of the Ethereum Foundation? If I represent you and your business, I can't talk about what we talk about.
John, is this public record?
No, it was an exhibit that's public record.
Can we show this or no?
Oh, yes, you can show it.
So
Absolutely.
So I don't know if people can see this.
And
but
it's pages of that.
This is an entire page of every single word on the page redacted, and there's pages of it.
This is your transparent Securities Exchange Commission.
Holy moly!
You were going somewhere. You were going somewhere about this. Why they would do this.
Well, what I was saying is it's not even privileged. There's no reason to redact it. Someone could ask me, are you the lawyer for Pat? I say, sure. I'm not going to tell you what we talk about. But it's not, I can't say, you know what I mean? These firms brag. If you go on his firm, Simpson Thatcher, they'll brag. We represent Google. We represent Yahoo. We were part of the Alibaba IPO. They brag about who their clients are. But in a deposition on taxpayer dollars, we can't get to know what your conflicts were.
This shit gets me fired up, man. Because what do you do? What do you do as a citizen? You're trying to live your life. You're trying to play by the rules. They're setting the rules. You're trying to play by the rules. And then they come, and whenever they want, they change them, and then you get no recourse.
The way you feel right now is the way I felt on Christmas Eve this time last year. I felt just like that, and that's why I filed the lawsuit.
It's a helpless, infuriating feeling, man. This is the type of shit that makes you want to get the...
But here's a question for you.
Yep.
So the bigger names that are supporters of Ethereum, it's not small names.
No.
These are big names.
Big.
Right? The big hedge funds that are bullish on Ethereum, these are not small names. These are very, very well-known names, right? That you're talking about Fortress, ARK Investment Group, Brevin, Renaissance Tech. There's some of these bigger names.
Billions.
Billions. So which means they have access to, they are banking on them being it. So is this a situation where Ethereum doesn't want an XRP and it's a form of wanting to eliminate competition? Is that all it is? Or it's a form of, let's get rid of these guys and let's not put the attention on us, let's get the attention to XRP? Is that kind of what this is?
Sure. I think Joe Lubin said it best. I said, when he said that every altcoin is spectacularly disadvantaged when compared to Ethereum. He said, Bitcoin and Ether, we've been blessed. We have the regulatory pass. We have the free pass. These other folks don't.
Yeah.
And look at how much activity went to Ethereum since that speech in 2018. What, half of NFTs are on Ethereum?
More than,
this article just came out. Right, I'm looking at this article. Ethereum, Joe Lubin defends SEC amid Ripple lawsuit. As the SEC is facing a barrage of criticism for its scattershot approach to regulatory cryptocurrencies, the much-feared regulatory agency has a supporter within the industry. Consensus CEO Joe Lubin. And in a recent interview with The Information, Lubin, who is known as one of Ethereum co-founders, claims that the SEC chair, Gary, demands for greater authority in regulating cryptos are justified. The head of Ethereum Development Studio says that the agency has a lot of legit arguments, may have legit arguments in the cases that are being discussed right now, while Ripple, the company that was sued by SEC in December over its unregistered security sales, accuses the agency of stifling innovation in the U.S. Lubin does not think that is the case. I don't believe the SEC is trying to squelch innovation, and he continues making other comments about it. Ripple's adamant that XRP was treated unfairly by the SEC. A speech by William Hinman, the SEC's former top official, in which he said that Ether was not an unregistered security, became a breeding ground for conspiracy theories about potential interest within the XRP community. Some are convinced that Hinman had skin in the game merely because of his ties to Simpson Thacher law firm, which is member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Yet the SEC made it clear that it has not taken an official position on its regulatory status, and Hinman was only expressing his personal opinion. Ripple CEO Brad is careful about his words choice, steering clear of peddling free pass conspiracy theories. In a recent interview, however, he said that the timing of the lawsuit was suspicious. Yep. So now, why is everybody likes Dogecoin? What is Brad's issue with Dogecoin?
I don't know, other than I think it comes down to the utility argument that you brought up, where you said Elon's being smart. Elon knows exactly what you said, right? So he's going to get, him and Mark Cuban, who's also into Doge, they're selling their merchandise, Dallas Maverick merchandise, Tesla merchandise, and they're using They're using Doge as a means of payment. Yeah. And so it's going to drive it up. And he's right. The reality is Dogecoin as a means of payment transaction is better than Bitcoin on the network. There's no doubt about it. Bitcoin right now, it's digital gold, it's a store of value, and that's why you should buy it. That's the use case for Bitcoin. Ethereum, it's the smart contracts, and they're the 2.0 eventually, and all that's going to happen. That's their story. With Ripple, it is these superior payment transactions. You can literally send, there's a guy named Michael Arrington, and he moved $50 million into his balance sheet, and it cost him $30.
Well, that's the that was the argument that I had heard against XRP, was the drug trafficking argument. Like, okay, you can buy $2 million of cocaine and have it in Colombia for $30 in 10 minutes, and that's so it's gonna make the drug trafficking, international drug trafficking and all smuggling that much easier. And I'm saying, like, well, they're doing it anyway.
Well, it's also listen, it's all fun about the criminal stuff because it's a public ledger. The CIA and the FBI have come out and said that they basically hope that terrorism use the distributed ledger. You can find them. It's an open ledger.
Yeah,
we can
Pomp
get on
said
it right
that
now.
as well. Pomp said that as well. Yeah, he said that this is better for the FBI because now they can catch the bad guy better. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he said.
But Pat, they're full of shit anyway, man, because look, they got a problem with the technology that could do this, but then the president's son is selling a painting for $2 million. Like, okay, and then we're just supposed to believe
beautiful painting.
This guy's macabre. I mean, this guy's incredible. Like,
I'd rather have the laptop.
Shame on you for discrediting his abilities.
How dare I? Yeah, I mean, he's a real crack artist with the paintbrush.
But I can't speak for Brad. I just think it comes down to that utility argument.
Well, I'll read the article to you on why he said that. So here's the article that just came out on why he has an issue. I think it's on page 5. Let me see here on the bottom. Okay, here we go. Bitcoin news. Dogecoin is loved by all except Brad Garlinghouse. Dogecoin is arguably one of the world's most popular and most successful cryptocurrencies in the world. Starting out as a joke roughly 8 years ago, and the currency has been established as one of the most leading digital assets of today, as a market cap of around more than $1 billion, and has garnered attention from Elon and Mark Cuban. Clearly, it's a popular coin, and everyone seems to like it except Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, in a recent interview stated that the asset was not good in the long run when it came to expansion of the crypto space. He mentioned, I'm actually not convinced, somewhat controversially, I guess, that Dogecoin is good for the crypto market. Dogecoin has some inflationary dynamics itself that would make it reluctant to hold. It's interesting that these words are coming from Brad, whose coin XRP was ultimately outdone by Dogecoin. At one point, Doge eventually rose so high early this year that it became world's 4th largest cryptocurrency by the market and beat out XRP now. Though now things have calmed down a bit, pushing Doge to the side. Garlinghouse stated that still feels Bitcoin holds the top position in crypto. When it came down to cryptocurrency serving as an inflationary hedge tool, he commented, when people are concerned about holding a fiat currency that might be inflating and that's devaluing, they're looking at, how can I hold other assets that won't have that same inflationary dynamic? His main issue with Dogecoin is that currency does not employ inflationary barricades the way Bitcoin does. As of now, Doge has approximately 132 billion units outstanding, while an additional 5 million new coins enter circulation every year. So I guess that's the reason why he has an issue with them in regards to inflationary barricades.
Well, XRP is, it has 100 billion. It's not going to get any more. It's sort of the similar argument to Bitcoin. Instead of 21 million, it's 100 billion. And but at the same time, everyone's in their tribe in crypto. Crypto is just like a microcosm of everything else in society. Everyone's in their tribe. When you had Kurt on, he's a BSV guy.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you asked him, well, is there going to be 2 or 3 coins that are going to, come out of this and be winners?
Yeah, no, BSV is the one true God.
That was it. Whereas I take that position. There's 7,000 coins. Most of them are going to go away, but there's going to be, a handful that make it. I think XRP is going to make it in the payment sector. I think Bitcoin is going to continue to be that digital gold, store of value. And if Ethereum, if they end up figuring it out, then I think it could ultimately flip Bitcoin even.
It could flip Bitcoin even.
I think it could.
So.
Listen, a lot of people say, oh, you're the XRP attorney and you're hating on Ether. I have a higher investment in Ethereum than I do XRP. This isn't about me. This is about
what's right.
What's right. It's about that reaction that you had as you were learning this, right? And the only difference is I have a law degree and I said I can do something about it.
But I read somewhere the supporters of XRP, I saw Kutcher, I saw Madonna, Snoop Dogg, but the most random character, Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
what is Bill Clinton and XRP?
Well, let me tell you something about Ripple. We've already went over their defense lineup, right? Their lawyers. They had Bill Clinton be their keynote speaker at their annual event. On their board just this year is a former U.S. Treasury. Her name, Rosie something, is Rios, is on the dollars and the $100 bills. She was the treasurer of the United States. She's on their board. So they have top-notch people from the industry, not just the crypto industry, but the financial industry.
So are they putting Bill Clinton on that list because he spoke at an event, or are they putting Bill Clinton on that list because he owns XRP?
Maybe they paid him in XRP to speak.
I don't know. I think it's more about just that list.
I think he's a fiat guy. I don't know why.
Former president coming on board.
Yeah, because it's the right guy to have on your side, because you're dealing with a lot of liberals on the opposing side that want to, regulate the hell out of you. And a phone call from Bill Clinton, and even scarier phone call is from his wife. You kind of have to take that call and say, all right, Hillary, we'll leave XRP alone.
Just think of that sentence that you said, man. 2021 is such a trip.
What's that?
There's a lot of liberals that want to regulate you. Like, these words don't even mean anything anymore.
You know who owns XRP? Tim Draper.
I know.
He owns XRP. And the Wolf of Wall Street.
Jordan Belfort?
Jordan Belfort owns XRP. And I think Jason Derulo. And maybe Exhibit. Maybe Exhibit. I think I saw him on Twitter. My own
one of my favorite Exhibit songs of all time. Yeah, he had back in the 90s. Yeah. But it's a shame. People in the rap game only for the money and the fame. Extra large. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's that was years ago. And the opening was sick.
Pat, do you think, and John, feel free to chime in on this. Do you think government has always been this overtly corrupt, or are we just finally seeing it because of access to information?
I actually think this is the most annoying time to be a corrupt government official, because social media is the ultimate great equalizer. So if they control the great equalizer, which is social media, why do you think so many people out of nowhere started saying how much they hate Facebook? I'm sorry, why do you hate Facebook? Well, why do you hate Facebook? Okay, so take Twitter out. Does Trump get elected? No. If Twitter is not started, your president today is Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
If Jack Dorsey and those guys don't start today, to Twitter, your president is Hillary Clinton today.
Well, she gave a great speech.
Her picture's on the wall, right? And unfortunately, she would have not had the master class, which is a shame, because that master class on how to handle the loss would have never been there, right? And that Newsweek magazine would have never been there, because that Newsweek magazine would have been official. So
Kate McKinnon with that great SNL opening.
So I think all of these government officials who were able to play the games back in the days, like what what you're showing right now with what do you call it, the
redactions,
is what's that 50 years ago? What's that 100 years ago? Right. You show this right now, a person who's extremely interested in this, guess what's the first thing they're doing? What are you talking about? I'm going to Google it. Back then, you couldn't Google it,
like
right?
The Kennedy files, they just buried the Kennedy files for all those years. Roswell.
Yeah, so, Bob Curzon and I, he's a former chairman of LIMRA, and he sits currently, I think he as a board member for I think a consultant for Bain, and he was a former president with Hartford back in the days. A credible guy, lots of experience in insurance.
Bain Capital? That's
Bain Capital, yeah.
Mitt Romney?
Well, it used to be Mitt Romney. Mitt's not been a part of that for a while. But yeah, Bain is a top 10 biggest hedge fund in the world. It's one of the bigger ones. Bob sits on our board. Bob and I are in Dallas last week. We're having our annual big board meeting that we have, and we're having conversations. And during lunch, he says, during dinner at Dakota's, he says, how much do you read? Like, every time I'm talking, like, how much do you read? Are you always reading? Are you always, collecting data? And we're going through it, and he asked a question about this one guy that used to be a big insurance trainer back in the days, and I Google him. And I say, you talking about this guy? He says, yeah. And then 30 minutes later, he says, when I was coming up in the game, I couldn't get an answer to any question as quickly as you just got it. The edge your generation has over me is any question can be answered like this. I had to go to the library to find the articles that guy wrote, to find the book.
Access to
because I couldn't even get the book. You couldn't go find the book. You had to wait a few weeks to go find who sells an older book of a guy. Today, boom, 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 boom. So access to information. The speed of access to information has both positive and negative. The negative to me is we get angrier faster. We have anxiety more than ever before. Stress, higher before. Arguments are higher because I want to fight you now. Back in the days, I had 30 minutes till I came home to fight my wife. Today, I can fight you right now while I'm driving and texting and calling. And
so you're literally never off the clock.
You're never off the clock. That is like heroin, man. It's so addicting right now. They used to say the average person touches this 150 times a day. What 150 times a day? It's a couple thousand times nowadays, right? But the positive side of what this has done is these politicians, the establishment, they hate this.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop them.
Well, yeah, but the scene where Joe Pistone got all these mobsters arrested and they all walked out and one by one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, a scene like that could be happening very soon, and it needs to happen one time. That's all needs to happen to set the tone.
Publicly.
Needs to happen one time. Needs to happen one time. All these guys talk about, when's the last time you saw, a person that's, with money never get arrested and all this other stuff? When's the last time you saw politicians walking up for manipulation behind closed doors and all this other stuff? I'm going to give credit to AOC, which is something I rarely do. You know what AOC said the other day? She said, I don't own any stock. Why not? She says, I think it's not fair for people in office like myself to own and invest in any stock because we have more access to information than the rest of you do.
That's a shot at Nancy Pelosi.
That's a shot at Nancy Pelosi.
And the best portfolio tracker of all time.
Exactly, the best portfolio tracker of all time. TikTokers follow what her husband does next, and boom, 88%, whatever the number is.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So, there's people like that are going to annoy the hell out of the establishment. Yeah. She's a socialist. Economically, we're completely on opposite sides. Yeah. But if there's one thing you may be on the same side with her, she's anti-establishment, full-on anti-establishment. So I don't think the days of playing politics and games and all that stuff. Can you pull up what Elizabeth Warren and Elon Musk just went through? Did you see that Twitter war they had?
That was great.
It was beautiful, man. Yeah. So Elizabeth Warren says, let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off of everyone else. Like she's trying to get her audience.
That's not even the best one. He had two other tweets that are better.
Do you have the rest of it? You got to get the rest of it. Yeah. That's not it. And then Elon Musk responds and says, please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen.
He's like, you're like that one lady that just always gets mad at everybody.
She
for
says,
no
you're
reason.
Like one of my friends, old lady moms that would always angry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To answer, Gerard, to answer your question, I think Pat's 100% right. I think the revolving door's always been there. But they've gotten to the point where this is just blatant. You know what I mean? This is so blatant, but they did not count on the social media. I wouldn't be sitting here right now being interviewed by you guys if it wasn't for Twitter and it wasn't for the social media, the XRP army utilizing it. Jay Clayton, we've been hitting CNBC every day. They bring Jay Clayton on, who is a contributor to CNBC, and they ask him a question and it just says, hey, that your critics say there's a conflict, and he goes, I'm not going to comment. And then they brought him on today again, and she goes, listen, everywhere I go, it's the same question. Are you going to address the ethics issue? And he goes, I'm not going to talk about pending litigation. There's no pending litigation about your ethics.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like we're questioning your integrity, and you won't defend yourself. That doesn't sound like you. You were the former SEC chairman of the United States Securities Exchange Commission, and you can't answer a few questions.
But this is kind of where I'm going with that. Is like this is what it half scares me and half infuriates me. I feel like, learning history from before I was alive, at least these people had the good sense to try to hide their corruption.
Exactly.
There was a fear of public retribution. Now, we may not have had access to the information, but there was a fear like, oh my God, these people find out, we're in big trouble. That just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, what they're doing with the, what the FTC is doing with the Pfizer shots, and we'll let you know what's in them. We'll let you know what we knew in 55 years. Now it's 75 years. That on its base point, I mean, that's just so insulting. It's so infuriating that you threatened people's livelihoods. You said, you got to get this or you're not going to be allowed to fly. We're going to get you fired from your job unless you get this thing. Okay, what's in it? We'll tell you in 75 years. What? Like, bro, what? Like, and it's not just that. It's over and over and over again, the overt corruption that they do it and then they move on. And there's this air of like, yeah, we did it. What are you going to do about it?
How many times has J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs been fined for manipulating gold and silver markets? And it just keeps happening and happening. If you make $1 billion, you're willing to pay $100 million fine.
Yeah, it's a good business model.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the infuriate, and I don't know, is that on the public? We have access to this information, but we don't hold these people accountable. Is that on us? Has this environment just created a new brand of overtly corrupt politicians that just don't care what the public thinks? They feel insulated from any sort of. I mean, Maxine Waters literally told people to go burn down American cities. Literally did. It's like, get out there. If you see people that you politically disagree with in restaurants, make it hard on them.
Yep.
That's terrorism. That's the literal definition of terrorism.
Well, I mean,
using violence to promote politics is the literal definition of terrorism.
Again, that is why the people want to see an anti-establishment in the White House. That's why half the country wants to see an anti-establishment person in the White House, to see if they're going to hold those people accountable. It's the biggest part. Look, they say people get into politics with the right intentions. I'm going to go correct this injustice that's happening. And you're in it for a year, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. A re-election's coming up. You need a favor. You give this guy the favor. He gives you the money. You get reelected. Now you're part of the establishment. Now your crusade, your cause, you were a true believer. You're no longer a statesman. Now you're officially what? You're part of the establishment. You're done. And they're going to hold you to it for the rest of your life. It's game over with, right? Okay. This is why a person that's not part of the establishment, that annoys the hell out of everybody, is what America needs today. Because if they talk about the stuff that these guys don't, they go to the same country clubs. They go to the same parties. They go hang out at the same places.
They were in the same fraternities in college, man.
You want to pull out what Musk said? This is the whole Twitter. Says, stop projecting. You remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom would just randomly yell at everyone for no reason. Please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen. Just look at her. She looks like she's not really that happy with her life. You know, she looks bitter and upset and frustrated.
This idea that Elon Musk doesn't pay taxes, it's just like, again, it's just such gaslighting. It's such nonsensical bullshit. How much do you think he pays in payroll taxes alone?
How many jobs have they created?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I want to know. How many jobs have these
infrastructure that like what have they added?
Listen, I can tell you, I grew up in Detroit, single mother, welfare, food stamps. Growing up, I did not hate the wealthier rich man. I want to know what he knew.
Yeah.
What can you tell me that I don't know so that I can do that? This class warfare is just gotten out of hand. You know what I mean?
Well, they're doing it on purpose.
It's like, can you imagine that we're going to only tax unrealized gains of billionaires? Unrealized gains?
Yeah. Unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains. Did that come out of your mouth? That you're going to tax someone for unrealized gains? So Elon Musk...
You're going to tax on the money you haven't made
Elon
yet.
Musk's stock price goes through the roof. We're going to tax him. But then when it crashes, when there's a recall or something, he can't write it off?
Did you see the article about what's going on in L.A. right now? Because, all these guys that are saying this stuff, sometimes they say these unrealized gains. Defund the police. It's a good idea. And then they're like, oh, shit, we didn't say it. The Republicans said defund the police. No, you came up with defund the police.
Yes.
And now they're all increasing their budget to hire cops because in LA. Did you see what happened in LA at the Grove? Like what they have around the Grove?
Did you see what the
Type in LA Grove fence.
Did you see what the LAPD put out for travelers coming to LA?
No.
They're like, don't wear anything flashy. Yeah. If somebody tries to rob you, don't try to negotiate them. Just give them what they want.
On that. Look at this. This is CNN. Famous LA shopping center adds barbed wire-like fence to deter smash and grabs.
Wow.
This isn't. We're talking about CNN here. Look at this. This doesn't make any sense. Businesses are worried today in LA. FYI, yesterday somebody sent a story saying a famous.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, by the way. The wire fencing is
the Apple Store in Portland. Did you pull up the Apple Store in Portland after this?
Watch this. The wire fencing in place didn't fully deter a robbery at the Grove on November 22nd when a group of 18 to 20 looters used sledgehammers and an electric bicycle to smash into the complex Nordstrom. After hours, they managed to steal at least $5,000 of merchandise and caused $15,000 in damages through police later recovered merchandise, arrested 3 people in connection with the burglary. The video, somebody sent me a video yesterday, so check this out. Guy walks in, takes stuff. He's at Walmart. They can't say anything to him. He just walks out. He's not running out. He just walks out. Yeah. Then he walks out. He ties his shoelaces outside in front of the stairs. You're supposed to run. That's the protocol. He's tying his shoelaces. I'm cool. I'm not going to get arrested. Go home. So someone said, "Oh, people are leaving LA." I said, "Dude, you have not seen the exodus California is about to experience. It hasn't started yet. People think it started because Elon, all these guys have
Joe Rogan.
It hasn't even started yet. Just wait. Just wait to see what happens there." But. Yeah, so these policies that you're talking about. By the way, I went and looked at the Stock Act that came up with. Some people are talking about that AOC has money and all this other stuff. U.S. News did an article saying, what are Congress members trading? In 2013, a amendment to the Stock Act came up, made some changes clouding the transparency and accessibility of Congress members' financial transactions. Most notably, it removed the requirement for electronic filing in a searchable, sortable database of transactions. However, one useful aspect of the legislation, which requires members to publicly report financial transactions in stocks, bonds, and other assets within 45 days, that remains, which is good. This is why people know what Pelosi owns.
But there's still people that are skirting that, like Republican Tommy Tuberville, the ex-football coach. He refuses to admit what he sells all the time. Like he got caught selling Alibaba stock months after he sold it. Now he's got. By the way, for people that don't want to look it up, Tommy Tuberville has some massive short puts on both Apple, Microsoft, and first quarter of 2022. I think.
Apple
Mr. Tuberville
just became a $3 trillion company.
If you believe Tommy Tuberville, he thinks that the first quarter of 2022 is going to be brutal.
Yeah,
I share that opinion.
So
I think crypto
you share that opinion?
I have the opinion. I also, fair disclosure, had the opinion that Bitcoin was going to run up by now, but I think it's going to run up in the first quarter, followed by a massive sell-off on crypto, tech stocks.
How bad do you think it's going to be? 2022.
30%.
So you think Bitcoin's going to drop to what, 25, 30?
My prediction, Bitcoin hits over 100,000 and drops back to where it is today. So,
okay. So you're not saying it's going to drop to 20 or 15 or 30 or anything like that.
I mean, it could. I think it's going to be a massive. I think there's too much money in it right now.
Yeah.
But after the run up, I think it could go from 150 back to 50.
Yeah,
30.
That's not something that's going to move the long play guys. What does Palm say? Nearly 85% of Bitcoin owners never sell their Bitcoin. They keep it. They just sit on it. So these are not guys that are churning and burning. Of course, the other 15% is just buying it as a stock, and they're pump and dump. But many of the true believers are hanging on to it.
Why do you think the first quarter of 2022 is going to be so bad? Are the holiday revenues not going to be what they normally are? Is that what the idea is here? Like, why on earth?
I mean, it could start happening now. I obviously no one can time the market. You know what I mean? I just think that
senators seem to do it pretty good.
Well, that's true.
They're talented. They're smart. they have degrees from Columbia University.
They seem to do it pretty good.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a world they're living in. Let me see which other story I wanted to bring up here before we wrap up. By the way, did you hear about Keanu Reeves? What Keanu Reeves talked about?
Yeah.
So interesting take on Keanu Reeves. Did you see that one girl whose story went viral?
Yeah, with the mother.
How awesome is that? Mom's like, I'm about to take a picture with Keanu Reeves. She's like, I have no idea who this guy is, but I'll take a picture with Keanu Reeves. Like, whatever. And what do you mean? This story goes viral. Here's Keanu Reeves, okay? Matrix star Keanu Reeves owns crypto, skeptical of NFTs, says we cannot have metaverse be invented by Facebook. Famous Hollywood actor, cryptocurrency, metaverse, fundamental tokens. During the interview, Reeves commented on the metaverse and Facebook, the social media giant that recently changed its name to Meta. Can we just not have metaverse be invented by Facebook, he said. On the subject of non-fungible tokens, Reeves was asked whether he has seen Matrix NFTs for the upcoming Matrix Resurrection movie. He admitted that he has not seen them and wondered if he and Moss are getting paid at all for them. When asked what he thought about the concept of digital scarcity, Reeves laughed and added that they are still easily reproduced. What are your thoughts on NFTs?
Well, I think the whole metaverse is I'm trying to get my
head around it.
I really am.
Yeah.
But like, for example, Nike, you're going to be able to go in the metaverse and go into a Nike store in the metaverse and buy a non-fungible token and then come out to the real world and then buy that real world shoe.
Yeah.
Like it's an interplay. But I mean, do I have some mana, some sand? I have some of those tokens, but I'm still trying to get my head around it. You know, buying land in the metaverse.
Pat just told you, man. If you're on your phone 2,500, 3,500 times a day, the next progression is in the phone, man.
Right.
And again, the dopamine is going to be something that our brains are not going to be able to get off of. You're going to be able to live your life as your idealized self in the metaverse. You want to be 6'5", you want to have abs, you want to dunk, you want your girlfriend to look like Barbie. All of that's possible in the metaverse. It's not possible in the real world. So,
what do you two think of NFTs?
I think it's a beautiful way to launder money.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going away. I think it's been around for a while. I mean, if you played any video games and you would buy the additional stuff that would come with it, buy a weapon for $5, buy this for $10, buy this for $20. I remember one time, me and my friends, okay, Steve and Alpha, where were we? We're in Panama, okay? And we're at the Panama Canal, and my friend is sitting there on his phone playing this game. I don't know what, Clash of something. So he's playing this game.
Clash of Titans.
Clash of Titans. Yeah. And I said, so what's going on here? And one of the guys says, you know, he spent already $5,000 on that game. I said, how much? He said, $5,000. I said, what are you doing with $5,000 on this game? I said, get video games. Like, I remember Street Fighter was $74.95. I remember when it came out, he says, oh, no, this is different. Let me tell you what I'm buying. Look at the weapon. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. I'm like, what are you talking about? So if a 40-year-old decamillionaire, which is that friend of mine, that's exactly the situation he's in. If he's spending $5,000 on a game, he's essentially buying non-fungible tokens. Right. So it's been around for a long, long time. It's officially now at a point where they're trying to get the rest of the world to know that this is the direction we're going.
Well,
there's nothing you can do about it.
Here's what's screwy about what you just said. So what you do in those games is you buy time. Because as you increase your castle, as you increase your land, it takes longer to farm. It takes longer to build.
Clash of Clans, not Titans. Clash of Clans.
Yeah, Clash of Titans is better, but Clash of Clans is good too. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that in the metaverse, one of the things that if you want to get real trippy, Twilight Zone-y, the logical conclusion of this is downloading your consciousness into the metaverse. Wow. Living forever as your idealized self, as long as you can afford to buy more time.
Right.
So as long as you can afford
Isn't that
to
the movie
buy
with
more
Justin
time.
Timberlake? What was the movie?
No one's getting off
Just
the
in
couch.
Time. I don't know what the movie was called.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's.
I don't think it's going away. Look, there's two things that's going to drive NFTs and the meta. Here's what it is. Number one, what is your system when you lay in bed and you close your eyes? Where do you go to? So you're either thinking about issues you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about your kids, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom's health, your dad's health, your business, a job interview, a project, something. or you're fantasizing about something.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, how's it going to be when I go to Europe? And your brain just goes, right? Okay, that's a meta, essentially. You're living in La La Land, and we've been doing this for a while, except it's your own meta that I cannot be a part of.
Sure.
It's only one person's meta.
Yeah,
it's your
sure,
meta.
sure.
And I'm concerned about the meta you want.
I don't know if I want to go to his meta. I've only known him for a while.
Yeah, mine is real sticky in my meta. My meta's sticky.
Some people's meta, it ain't no, it's a whole different thing.
You don't even want to smell my meta.
Okay, but that is a form of meta, right? And here's the other part why I don't think this is going away. I think, like somebody said, what an idiot. Who the hell would spend $5,000? It's called competition, man. Capitalism is based on competition. We like to compete. We want to do better. We want to be on a leader's bulletin. We want to be ranked. We want to have something to say, here's what I am. As long as your imagination doesn't go away, and as long as competition is going to be the main currency, NFT and meta is not going to go away.
Dude, it's immortality. It's so much bigger than meta.
Yeah.
It's immortality.
Yeah.
If you had the option and if you had the resources to live forever, your family live forever, would you do it? I mean, it's not even a hypothetical question. It's maybe a matter of technological advancement.
I wrote a book about it. The fiction book, you've read the book. The book is about that. That's partly a meta. And it took me 10 years to finish this book. And we just finished it right now. We're pitching it to publishers. We just finished the marketing for the book, and we'll be going to different publishers to see what direction we're going to go with this. But that is essentially what you're talking about.
What happens when your meta life is so much better than your real life, though?
That's the problem. Everybody's going to be
John, you may want to put that mic closer to you.
It's not a problem of the system. It's the backbone of the system. Your idealized self, your dream world, is going to be so much better than the real world.
You're never coming out.
There's going to be people who become David Thoreau, go to the woods, live deliberately. I want to feel. I want to look at the real sky. I want to breathe the real air. And there's going to be those half of society that they're going to be real. They want to go skydiving. They want real danger. They want to feel real things. They want to have unprotected sex. They want to feel life. And then there's going to be people that are in the metaverse that are safe. They're totally controlled. They can't say anything bad. They have to acquiesce all their freedom to whatever controlling organism. But the trade-off is they get to be their idealized self.
Right.
They get to do whatever they've ever dreamed of doing that they can't do in the real world. They can do it here. And that's the serotonin and the dopamine that's going to cause. I mean, right now, you've got guys that, there's a great comedian that I know, Mike Ciccoli, unbelievable guy. He goes, my life is so much better in Grand Theft Auto than my regular life. And I die 100 times an hour. He's like, I die 100 times an hour in GTA, and my life is so much better in the game.
What percentage of people do you think prefer their imaginary life over their real life? What do you think that is? I mean,
it's high.
Of course it is.
High.
So why do people do drugs? Why do people do alcohol?
Escape reality.
To escape reality. I mean, we've been wanting to escape reality for a long time. Most people's escaping of reality is video games or, smoking weed or doing ecstasy and doing whatever they do. That is their form. I just don't want to deal with the life I currently have, and there's nothing I can do about it. So you're bitter about it. You have a way to escape it. So that is part of the motive and the attraction. I can escape it, and it's a different form of a drug. And I'm going to be addicted to it. That's just kind of how this thing's going to be.
I think the drug analogy is the perfect analogy.
Are your parents still alive, if you don't mind my asking?
No.
Okay. Imagine if their consciousness were uploaded to the metaverse, and you can go to the metaverse and have dinner with your mother whenever you wanted to. What would that be worth to you?
A lot. Especially if she was cooking.
would it matter to you that the food you were eating wasn't real?
No.
Probably not, right?
Not if it was her chicken and dumplings and cornbread.
You're making me hungry, man. It's 10:53.
I mean, that's look, we think about the crazy things and we think about the ability to fly and all this fantasy stuff, and that's definitely part of it. But then there's that realization of what, man, if my parents if my parents' consciousness gets uploaded, I mean, look, my parents are a little bit older. I go home twice a year. If my parents live another 10 years, I got 20 times to see my mother. Right. 20. And that's the whole reason to work, people. The whole reason to work, the whole reason to put up with the bullshit and make money is because money's worth time.
Right.
And if you can double that and see your parents 4 times a year, you double the amount of time you have with them. The metaverse, you can see them forever.
Right.
Forever.
Yeah. How many people want to have a conversation with their deceased parents?
That's the price point. I mean, listen, the whole part about being a born again, what is the idea? That you're eventually going to see the people you love that are no longer here with you. Well, Meta in heaven. Yeah, Meta is a form of a secular heaven is how it's being sold. But I want to wrap up with this story and then we go off. It's on page 2, at the bottom of page 2, if you want to look at that. It's a CNBC story. Own everything but bubble assets, tech and crypto, recommends institutional investor Hall of Famer Rich Bernstein, which we know who he is. He has got a big reputation. He's a winner. He's done well for himself. On one side, he says, we have all that I would call the bubble assets, tech, innovation, disruption, cryptocurrencies. This is Rich Bernstein, who ran strategy at Merrill Lynch. On the other side of this seesaw, you have literally everything else in the world. I think if you're looking at 2022 into 2023, you want to be in the everything else in the world side of that seesaw. His number one pick is energy, a group he listed as a top play coming into 2021. Earlier this year, Bernstein called oil the most ignored bull market. Bernstein also sees cryptocurrency as a major problem. Last June, he warned the rush to own Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies was becoming dangerously parabolic. Cryptos are the biggest financial bubble ever in the history. This is just a monster one. Do you agree with him?
Well, it depends on the timing. Like when he says, so for example, if Bitcoin goes from 47,000 to 150,000 and then crashes, is he right? Well, I guess he is, but Cathie Wood takes the opposite, right? She says we're not in a bubble right now of ARK investing. And so it all comes from perspective. I don't think we've seen the parabolic run on Bitcoin that he's describing. And I certainly don't think it's the biggest bubble ever. Do I think everything is in a bubble? When you pump this much liquidity into the economy, then sure, you're going to create bubbles. And so it's all a matter of perspective. Do I think that there's going to be some type of crash some point next year? Yes. Mm-hmm. You know, is that the later half? Is that the first half, the first quarter? I don't know. I wish I did. But I think he's right that we're headed for a major correction. I just don't know when. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, we talk about the tech bubble. Was tech really a bubble? I mean, was it a bubble? Because look at what Apple is now.
99 it was.
But I'm saying, look at what Apple is now.
Right, yeah.
Look at what Microsoft is now. There's a difference between a bubble and disruptive technology. There's a difference between a bubble and changing industries. You know, like if somebody was like back in the day, you know, a car cost $500, a Ford Model T. Well, I can get a horse for $25. I'm never spending $500 for a car. That's asinine, you know. And then you know, there's $1 million cars now.
Right.
Pat drives them when he gets bored on the weekends. Like, is that a bubble? Is that parabolic, or is it changing technology? Like, I think you said it best. It's a matter of perspective of time.
Right.
Like if Ripple, if you guys settle, if you guys win this case, and it goes up to $1.50, what's crazy is people will be like, it's just a 200. It's a 200%. Like that's not even good in crypto anymore. It's like why would I
10
invest?
times, 20 times.
If it's not 9,000x, it's not worth my time. Like it's so in that aspect of it, there's a speculation bubble. But I don't think. I mean, if you're oil, man, I mean, with Exxon, with the activists that they have, like, yeah, look, you always be in energy, always be in things that people use. It's not sexy, you know, but you got to be in things that people use. But do you think crypto is going away? To me, bubble means it's going away.
Right.
Yeah.
Is real estate a bubble right now?
I think real estate is a mathematical formula, you know, meaning like if interest rates go up, real estate's going to take a hit. You know, Goldman Sachs is predicting rates are going to go up 7 times in 2022.
Wow.
That's a lot of times when Goldman says 7 times. That rates are going to go up.
There's no way.
Oh, listen,
In a midterm election year, you think that look at the political pressure that he's dealing with. You think that they're going to let?
Did you hear what Biden said yesterday? He says, Republicans, I just want to tell you, it's going to be a bad midterm election for you. Did you hear him say that yesterday?
Yeah, okay.
He said
I think they're getting wrecked. They're getting wrecked.
Well, the number is 63. I think it's 61 or 63, the record held by the most seats to flip, and the person that owns the record is his former boss, Barack Obama. So we're going to see whether he's going to flip that many, like he's going to lose that many seats.
Well, I hope they lose the seats because I want to see Gary Gensler in committee answering some questions.
It'd be interesting to see that taking place.
How can people help put pressure? What can people do that are listening to this help put public pressure on them so that this investigation happens?
If they go to crypto, www.crypto.us, cryptolaw.us. If they go to that, there's a tab in there.
Cryptolaw.us.
Yes. If they go to that, there's a tab, Connect to Congress, and that goes to your senators and your Congress representatives, and you can put on pressure. Simply say you want an investigation into this. You want the SEC to come answer questions under oath. These guys are skating it.
Investigation into specifically?
Investigation into the SEC and the filing of this case and the way it went down and the conflicts of interest. And here's the thing. Only good can come from an independent investigation because let's say, Gerard, let's say that there was no actual crime. But when the appearance of impropriety rises to the level that it destroys public confidence,
credibility, yeah,
right? Then if you do an investigation and it's fair and it's independent, and you come back and say no crime was committed, no quid pro quo, but they could have done disclosures, done this better, fine. If there is a crime committed, if there was a quid pro quo, then justice is done.
What was the tweet that you said yesterday? You had a tweet yesterday. Hey, let's let the truth fall where it may.
Just a matter of time. Well, John, I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Absolutely.
And,
thank you so much.
We never do podcasts on Wednesday, but we did it because we wanted to have a sit-down with you. And I've really enjoyed it. I hope the audience has enjoyed it and learned just as much as we have. Folks, if you don't follow John on Twitter, he posts stuff there regularly, and he's very active. I suggest you go follow him on Twitter. What's your handle on Twitter, by the way?
John E. Deaton 1.
John E.
Deaton
1.
Yep.
Okay, John E. Deaton 1 on Twitter. You can find him there, as well as we put the link there, cryptolaw.us, cryptolaw.us, to follow what's going on over here. John, appreciate you for coming out. Folks, tomorrow we are with Danielle DeMartino Booth, same time tomorrow, podcast 3 times this week. We won't be doing it next week, but tomorrow we'll be with Danielle. Take care, guys. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Oh.